Show Phoenix Magazine readers voted #1 talk radio show in Arizona.
#1 during your morning commute.
#1 whenever news breaks during your day.
And #1 whenever and wherever you want to talk sports.
Now it's time for Monty in the Morning.
Hey, yo, indeed it is an incredible day in the history of the United States of America. It is Inauguration Day, Wednesday, January 20th, 2020, and there has never been a better day to hit that subscribe button. Absolutely right. Find us on YouTube, The Monty Show, MONTY, The Monty Show. It makes a huge difference to us when you do, in fact, hit that subscribe button, so please do not hesitate in knocking it down. You know, we'll spend a lot of time talking about the president. We want to talk about entrepreneurship today. We are watching live on the news here in the palatial studios of the Monty Show as Donald Trump has boarded his helicopter, which is now lifting off from the White House. And it is quite the moment, Jake. Like, it really is. If you think about this, this is really quite a big day. This is, I don't know, like, just real quick before we get into the Jazz.
Yeah.
Because we're going to talk a lot about his legacy and whatnot. Do you feel positive? Do you feel good about what's going to happen in the next year?
Oh,
just
yeah,
one
absolutely.
year.
Absolutely. I think finally we're in a place where the White House is going to be run in a more traditional sense. I think, every president up to Donald Trump has, run the White House in a respectful way, and I think this is the first president we've had easily in my lifetime, but in quite some time, who has really done things just off the wall, kind of crazy, almost living in an alternate reality. So I think the country is better for it now that he is done, and I don't just say that from a political standpoint. I just simply mean from the way he runs the White House, whether you look at what he was doing on Twitter before he got suspended on Twitter, the way he handled foreign relationships, all these things was just hurting our country. So I think we're finally able to take that step forward and move back to where we were in the world.
Bro, you already have people asking about your nasal passage.
Yeah, bro, it is what it is. Some days I wake up and I'm congested. Like, hey, I'm congested. I get it.
William was really worried about you yesterday.
Yeah,
he even mentioned it yesterday. He's the first guy in today. I mentioned it to you before the show.
Yeah.
And William says, Jake, do you know what Dayquil is? Yes, Jake knows what Dayquil is.
Yeah, but I don't need Dayquil. Not today. I'm fine.
Okay.
It is what it is. It goes away at about 8:30, 9 o'clock, and I'm totally fine. So
that's cool, man.
I don't know how to explain it. Yeah,
that's fine. It is what it is. Appreciate your concern, William. I just think it's ironic I asked you before the show, and the first guy through nails it. Anyway, all right, we're going to get back to Donald Trump. I know a lot of you asked yesterday about the conversation we were going to have about being entrepreneurs, and I actually have a lot to say about that, and that will be coming up here in about 20 minutes, so stick around for that. But I do want to talk about the Utah Jazz. I thought it was interesting last night, the depth and the level that we saw swing through that lineup. And you know what? It has almost become regardless of the opponent. We saw this the other night against the Nuggets. By the way, apparently yesterday I said that they lost to the Nuggets. They beat the Nuggets. But my point in that game is the same point that I have in the game last night, that there is a significant issue with the Jazz when it comes to offense. Rudy Gobert's a fine defensive player. He showed that last night against New Orleans, the block shots, the dominance in the paint, really intimidating Zion Williamson. For, I think, maybe the first time in Zion's career, we watched him get intimidated in the paint, because that's something we hadn't seen in the past.
Right.
But if you look at the way this team is playing offensively, there is a real hole in their game. And there is a real problem when this team is almost exclusively reliant on the three ball. You're getting very little, finishing at the rim. Jordan Clarkson, he's going to come off the bench and never pass. You look at the way Donovan Mitchell's been playing lately, and what have you seen him doing? You're watching Donovan Mitchell drive for the only purpose of throwing that ball back out to the three-point line to, last night it was Bogdanovich. But you're watching him consistently do this now because they're so reliant on the three ball to win. And Jake, I think it really is a death trap for that basketball team.
Yeah, and I think it's a side effect of today's NBA. I look at other teams that play this way, and I look at what was the James Harden Rockets, and that's how they played. They had they led the league in shooting threes as a squad, and so I look at the Jazz, and I say to myself, the difference here is that the Rockets were built to do that. The Rockets ran that offense specifically with that goal in mind, and specifically with the goal in mind to get up and down. Whereas the Jazz are only running that offense because they don't have another choice. They don't have other options offensively to get the job done. Donovan Mitchell is literally the only guy on that team who at any time, no matter who the defender is, can get his bucket whenever he wants to. Jordan Clarkson, yes, he can score a little bit, but he can be had defensively. And overall, I look at the rest of the roster and I say, okay, cool. Bogdanovich can shoot a little bit. Joe Ingles can shoot a little bit. You have other guys on the team that contribute here and there, but you don't have a balanced roster right now. And I'm watching this game last night, and I know that I tend to be negative about Rudy Gobert, but it just stands out so much lately. And now that he has the contract, it really kind of magnifies it. It's like, dude, you missed a wide open layup last night. Zion Williamson, I actually kind of disagree. Yes, Zion early in the game faced some adversity against Rudy Gobert. He had to figure out how he was going to beat Rudy Gobert's length. And then he did that, which is he went to the body just like he does on everybody else. He straight up threw Derek Favors down the paint. I don't know how many people saw that, but Zion Williamson absolutely just sent homie down the paint out of bounds. The guy just went for a ride. And then I look at how he played against Rudy Gobert and I say, hey, this guy is strong. He's shorter by a lot than Gobert, and he's still getting his buckets. He's still. Yeah,
but this is the same thing I always say about Zion. That's cool. He gets his buckets, but how many buckets did he get blocked at the rim? How many times did he choose not to shoot? He got a traveling call because he couldn't get the ball off his hand because Gobert was going to block it. It's cool. Everybody wants to show the highlight where he shoulders Favors out of the way. Derek Favors is not young Derek Favors anymore. Derek Favors is not 25-year-old Derek Favors anymore. To me, that's not that impressive. This is why I say everybody always gets a boner over dunks in the NBA. If you're in the NBA, you should be able to dunk, unless you're Steph Curry, and then you can't. If you're Zion Williamson, you should be able to dunk. That is not impressive anymore. Him shouldering guys out of the way is not impressive anymore. Do something other than dunk a basketball, right? And then when you try to go to the basket and dunk on the best rim protector in the NBA, which Rudy Gobert is, you get shut down.
Right, but then after that, that's what you're missing. After that, all that happened, he made adjustments in the game. And my point is...
What adjustments did he make?
Did you watch this?
I watched every minute of that game.
Dude, he started going to the body on Rudy Gobert and moving him and getting his buckets. There were several layups that he battled Gobert and won the matchup.
I would point out that they lost by 16 points.
That may be true. Yeah.
No, it's not maybe true. The Jazz beat the Pelicans 118-102 last night. The Pelicans got blown out. I'm not impressed with Zion Williamson's performance. And like Tony Jones of The Athletic was tweeting about how he might be a generational finisher, Zion Williamson. Hey, he might be a generational finisher. Yeah, that might be true. The guy cannot shoot a basketball.
And I agree with that.
He can dunk, and he can make a layup. That's his game. He doesn't have a turnaround fadeaway J.
That's true.
He doesn't have, it's been 1 year since Zion Williamson debuted in the NBA. He's the exact same player. In fact, I would take a step back from that. He's not as versatile as he was. He made 4 threes in a row on his debut night, if anybody remembers that. His game has not gotten better, and I wish people understood this. I understand he's a physical specimen. He's 5'3" and 285 pounds. I get it. He's like a physical freak. Zion Williamson can jump out of the gym. It is akin to Lamar Jackson. This is all great that you're really fast and you can run. At some point, you got to stand in the pocket and deliver the football. At some point, Zion Williamson is going to have to develop a skill that requires more than dunking a basketball. because you can isolate him and you can beat them because he is very limited. So I'm not that impressed with Zion Williamson's performance. I don't know. You're saying I'm being too harsh?
No, you're just you're missing, I think, the overreaching point, which is cool. Let's rip Zion and say that he doesn't have the skill set. Which, by the way, I agree with. You got to be able to shoot. This is the same conversation we have with like Giannis. In that same breath. But the point here is that even though Zion is really limited, he still caused chaos. He still did a lot for that team last night. And by the way, I would remind you, they got that lead down to like 12, and they were down 25. So I mean, they didn't almost win, but they did come back.
I think the NBA is a league of runs. There's no doubt about that. All of this to say, the Jazz are incredibly reliant, in my opinion, on the three ball. They shot 47 threes last night.
It's ridiculous.
21 of 47 from three. And granted, they made them. They shot 45% from three. That's pretty good. I look at Donovan Mitchell being 4 of 7. That's great. I look at the fact that, Mike Conley is 1 of 5, but he has 10 dimes. I look at Rudy Gobert going 13 and 18. No, he didn't take a three, though, by the way.
Right.
One of Rudy Gobert was 1 of 6 from the free throw line. Right? They had 3 starters shoot a free throw.
Yeah.
What should that tell you?
They don't go to the paint.
They don't go to the paint, right? And again, I just ask, why is Royce O'Neal playing 35 minutes?
Because they don't have anybody else. They don't have anybody else.
Yeah.
Who is going to play instead of him? I'd
be playing Joe. I'd be starting Joe Ingles. Yeah. Joe is a good defender, as is Royce O'Neal. I just look at Royce O'Neal. He is on most nights really just a zero factor. He'll give you 2 of 7 from 3. He isn't driving to the basket effectively and finishing. He's not a guy that rebounds. He's not a guy that gives you dimes.
He plays defense. That's what he does.
That's it.
Yeah.
And in this league, you need more than that. I look at the fact that Jordan Clarkson can't start because all he does is shoot.
Right.
He comes off the bench, gives you offense, that's it.
Uh-huh.
This team is incredibly limited.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the things that if you're a Utah Jazz fan, you're going to have to come around to the fact that this team's no longer elite. This team is not in my opinion, they're not if I look at the standings right now, is this a top 5 team in the West?
Yeah, right here today, and this is another side of the conversation I think is fascinating. Like a lot of local reporters, Jazz fans on Twitter, basically most of the following will tell you, hey, we're second in the West, we're fourth in the West, like we're a top 5 team in the West, we're going to get home court advantage in the postseason and all this great stuff, and it's like the problem is for the Jazz, it's not good enough just to make the postseason anymore. This is like how many times you're just going to make the postseason and then go out, in the first series, or otherwise. It's time to start like pushing. Donovan Mitchell isn't old or anything certainly, but he's not getting younger. You don't get Donovan Mitchell's every single year in the NBA draft. Like you got to take advantage of guys like Donovan Mitchell while you have them. This is the problem in Portland. They're not taking advantage of Dame and CJ. They don't have enough. And so that's why I say, and that's why I was so upset that they gave Rudy Gobert all this damn money. Like, why would you pay Rudy Gobert all that money even though you know that your roster is limited, even though that you're never going to beat the Lakers? That's never going to happen. It's insanity. It's never going to happen, yet you still want to pay Rudy Gobert. Okay, well, don't come crying to me when you get knocked out of the postseason, dude. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. The Rudy Gobert contract is going to be a weight around your neck. And I look at where they are now. I think, what are the Jazz? 10-4. I look at the top 5 teams in the West. They're separated by essentially 2.5 games. Are the Jazz better than the Suns right now?
No, I think it's extremely close.
I think it's really close.
I think it's extremely close.
And oddly enough, I think that the defining factor there could be on the offensive end for the Suns, DeAndre Ayton's ability to shoot the J.
Yeah.
Because that's going to pull Rudy Gobert away from the basket, and that's going to allow the other weapons on that team to get in the paint. Chris Paul has really evolved his game to a point where he's a dribble penetrator now that's setting up guys like Cam Johnson, that's setting up Devin Booker the other night. You can see that they have a set where CP3 will penetrate and Devin Booker slides to the opposite wing, and he's open almost three straight possessions on that.
Because the defense collapses.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where you're really looking at a maturation factor in the Western Conference, where the Jazz are going the opposite direction of where everybody else is going. The Jazz are becoming much more reliant on the three, where if you look up and down the roster, if you look at the LA Clippers, the Clippers are getting away from the three ball.
Yes.
They're trying to get more. That's why that Paul George dunk the other night was so freaking unbelievable.
Yep.
Because he hasn't been that guy since he broke his leg, and all of a sudden he's that guy now. Right? Like, they're really pushing to get to the basket. I look at Portland. It's devastating that CJ McCallum's out of that lineup.
Yeah.
For a month with a broken foot.
But even look at both of them. Like, a lot of times late in the game, yes, Dame does take a lot of those deep shots, and that's kind of how he's built the logo Lillard kind of branding or whatever. But if you look at their offense and you really watch that team play, they're not predicated on the three. They are a mid-range jump shooting team that oftentimes is getting to the basket and getting fouled. So like you look at the Lakers. The Lakers are not built on the three. They have guys that can shoot the three. They have guys that can knock the three down, but it's not their entire existence. They have a balance. And so whether it is the Lakers, the Clippers, the Suns, even the Nuggets, I would say, are not built on the three so much. Like, yes, they do shoot quite a bit, but they have balance as well. That's the problem for the Jazz. And I want to make sure people understand like how we're kind of framing this conversation. It's not, hey, the Jazz suck, or like, the Jazz are a bad team. They're not a bad team. They're just not good enough, and that's a huge difference.
Yeah, and I think that conversation is one that's hard for Jazz fans to take. I mean, they're not good enough. They're not elite. Trust me, I know they're 10-4. Again, I think they're second in the West or whatever. I know that. They're not nearly on par. In my opinion, the top three teams in the West right now today would be the Lakers, I think the Clippers, the Suns, and I don't know what the Nuggets are right now. I don't. The Nuggets-Jazz rivalry has become heated.
Yeah.
It is one of those games that you have to watch every single time they play, because that rivalry is legit now. So
the Nuggets play the little brother role. They're the annoying ass team that's
agree.
Very gritty. They're good enough to beat you. Not to get off track here, but Trump just rolled up to the airport here, and he looks miserable. I mean, dude looks miserable.
Yeah. Hey, make sure you follow us on the old YouTuber machine. It really helps us. We're at 100 followers now, which is a great a benchmark for us. It's a new channel for us as far as, our live streams. So, adding, 30 something followers in 2.5 weeks it's quite remarkable. And we appreciate that, but it makes a difference when you follow our channel. So please do that. Find us on YouTube, The Monty Show, MONTY, The Monty Show. If you're an audio podcast guy, make sure you search anywhere you get a podcast, The Monty Show, MONTY, The Monty Show. By the way, I was asked why we are still doing Periscope and YouTube Live. Periscope's going away at the end of March. I don't know how long we're going to stay on Periscope, frankly. Certainly by March 31st, we'll be off of Periscope.
Yeah.
For sure. But we will likely make that decision before March 31st, so keep an ear out for that on the show. But we appreciate everywhere you listen, whether it's on YouTube, Periscope, obviously the podcast, anywhere you want it, search The Monty Show, MONTY, The Monty Show. It is 6:35 in the Mountain Time Zone, 8:35 in Andrews, Maryland, at Joint Base Andrews in Maryland. And Donald Trump is on the stage, and he is giving his farewell address.
Yeah.
As he has left the White House for the final time. His family is at the base. Mark Meadows, his chief of staff, looks to be at the base as well, but notably not there. And for good reason, is Mike Pence, his vice president. And a lot of other people are not at Joint Andrews this morning with the president because he should not be there.
Right.
He should be at the White House or, with Joe Biden at his inauguration, handing over the keys to the castle.
Right.
And this is something that Donald Trump has been reticent to do. In fact, now has refused to do it.
Yeah.
How big of a deal is it to you that he's completely thrown out tradition over the last, 45 presidents?
Yeah.
How big of a deal is it to you that he's not going to be there today?
Yeah, I think it is disappointing. It is certainly disrespectful. I think it does show character issues with him, but we knew that all along. So, I'm not surprised. In terms of, how big of a deal is it in terms of tradition? Yeah, I mean, it's a big deal. Like, the whole idea is like when you become president, one way or another, you're going to have to attend your successor's inauguration. Whether you served 2 terms and you were in there 8 years like Obama was, or you only have 1 term and then
Like
you got
Jimmy
voted
Carter.
off. Yeah, dude. There have been so many presidents in Donald Trump's position that got 1 term and then had to move out, And the idea that he, I guess the message it really sends when I think about it is he is once again, and I guess this is for the final time for now, is putting himself and his feelings and the way he views the world above the responsibility that he has as the president. And I just think it's kind of disappointing. I think, Joe Biden certainly deserves more than that. And again, I want to make it clear, this process, the inaugural process, the peaceful transition of power, as we've heard it 1,000 times on the news, this is tradition. This is how it's supposed to be done. This is how it's been done for a long time. So the idea that you're selfish enough not to do it that way and not to give Joe Biden his moment is just disappointing, and it shows. It just shows low character.
Well, I think today is a really important day, and Donald Trump's legacy is something that is often talked about. This is something that I think, over the course of history will be well defined. And I think what is interesting to me is that his presidency, I think you said to me last night, that his presidency will be studied for generations.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. I think it will. And I don't necessarily fall in line with everybody else who says that this president is a farce, that this president, is the worst president ever. I wasn't around for George Washington. I was a child during Jimmy Carter. I have no idea if he's the worst president ever. What I do know is Donald Trump has completely changed the way we do business in this country. Some of it good, some of it bad. It's very easy, as he strides out of the White House for the last time today, to have that sense of relief. It's very easy to sit here and talk about the fact that Donald Trump, divided this country. And I think he did. But it's also easy to forget, things that he's done in the financial sector. I don't happen to be a fan of his tax break. It created more billionaires than at any other time in the history of the United States.
Right.
The stock market very clearly is his singular win as a president. I don't want to get into the debate of should Obama get some credit for that. Well, it didn't happen with Obama. It happened with Trump. So you got to give him credit for that. But there are other things that he deserves credit for as well. This insurrection last week is incredibly damaging to the history of this country.
Agreed.
Or I guess it was 2 weeks ago today that happened.
Yeah.
Incredibly damaging for this country. I look at the racial divide in this country. It's never been larger. I look at the fact that we had a president for the last 4 years who, if you bowed down and kissed his ass, he moved for you. If you said one cross word about him, you were dead and you were never getting a pardon.
Right.
Right? You look at the pardon process. Like today, he pardoned Lil Wayne and Kodak Black, or late last night. He pardoned a guy named, Kwame, the former mayor of Detroit, who was in jail for really serious fraud and racketeering charges.
Yes.
He took massive bribes.
Well, and I think the first thing that comes to my mind, and this may be just me being a hater or whatever, but when I think of Donald Trump pardoning people, not so much Lil Wayne and Kodak Black, but this mayor specifically, and folks like Steve Bannon,
Kwame Fitzpatrick,
and and just these people who are politically involved and connected to him. The thing that really stands out to me is he's not pardoning them because he's trying to help them, right? Like he's pardoning them because he's trying to help him somehow. Everything that he does is in an effort to put him in the best position as an individual. And if that means pardoning someone that nobody else would pardon, then he's going to do that, and that's concerning.
There hasn't been a sitting president or an outgoing president to miss an inauguration since 1869.
Yeah, it's tradition.
And I think that speaks to, but it's more than tradition. I think going to the next president's inauguration, in this case, going to the inauguration of the president who defeated you, it is one of the most raw and real indications that democracy works.
Yeah.
And that's why we've seen it time and again. We've seen Hillary Clinton go, to Donald Trump's inauguration. If there is no clearer symbol of how democracy works, it's Hillary Clinton sitting up there 4 years ago, whether you like her or not. She sat up there as the outgoing Secretary of State and as, somebody that was a prominent figure in the Obama administration. She sat up there and congratulated him. She sat up there and shook his hand. Yeah. She sat up there and called for Americans to support Donald Trump. He's not going to do that. I don't know how many people realize this. He's never mentioned Joe Biden's name. Since that election happened, he's talked about the stolen, rigged election. He's never mentioned that Joe Biden won and is now the 46th president of the United States. And to me, that's why we had an insurrection 2 weeks ago.
Right.
To me, that's why today, around the country, we have state capitals in all 50 states that are on lockdown, surrounded by concrete barriers and fences. Today, that's why we won't have the hundreds of thousands of Americans who turn out every 4 years for an inauguration to celebrate the presidency and the democracy that puts that president in place. That's Donald Trump's legacy.
It should be a day of celebration, if we're being honest, and it's not. It feels like a day of hey, let's get through the inauguration. Like let's make sure everyone's safe. Like let's make sure that this can just run its course. Rather than when I think back to Trump's inauguration, I remember, hey, the Obamas, Barack and Michelle, welcomed him with open arms. They did the traditional walk down the stairs. I remember watching them fly away in Marine One or whatever the hell it's called now, Special Ops One when you're not the president or whatever it is. And I don't know, man. It's just disappointing. I guess there's a sense that our country should be operating at a higher standard. It's not that we're better than every country. It just feels like our country was, and again, not from a political sense, but just overall, from just a professionalism stance. When the Obamas were in office, it felt like we were operating like up here, and then Trump took office, and we took like 5 steps down the ladder, and it's just gone way downhill with the way he's handled things. Like, if you think about if he handled things, whether it is COVID or whether it is, like, with COVID is a perfect example. If he'd have just had the courage and the humbleness to say, hey, I'm not a scientist. We're going to just follow the numbers. We're just going to follow the advice of paid professionals who know what the hell they're doing when it comes to pandemics and viruses and stuff. And he'd have just followed the guidance and told people to wear masks earlier and all this stuff. Like, he would have been remembered better. But his pride really hurts him when we talk about his legacy.
Well, and I think one of the things that's so interesting is he is just so unable to admit defeat in any area. The Nobel Peace Prize is one of the things I'll always remember about Donald Trump. He was desperate to get a Nobel Peace Prize because Barack Obama had won a Nobel Peace Prize. And so he tried this relationship with Kim Jong-un.
Yeah.
And it was an abject failure. Like, there's no other way to look at the fact that Donald Trump's attempt to form a relationship with Kim Jong-un was nothing short of a failure. There is no way to, what he loved to talk about jobs numbers. We have 3 million less people working today than the day he got in office.
Yes.
There's no way to get around that.
And that's one of is one of the most prominent facts that people are leaning on today. I've seen that all over social media, seen it on Instagram. I've seen it a lot. And you can't get away from it. And I think it's especially, I think it's being brought up a lot because he pushed this idea of the stock market, the economy, everything's amazing. And I think what people forget is the stock market is not the economy. They're two different things.
That's correct.
And I think people really don't understand that. So yes, the stock market thrived billionaires became more billionaires, right? But the economy in the blue collar middle class family of four struggled mightily during his presidency. Not just because of him. The pandemic obviously is the main reason, but he didn't help, and that's the point.
Donald Trump said, as he was departing, he said, quote, "We will be back in some form. So have a good life. We will see you soon." He walked off the stage to YMCA.
Typical.
Which is interesting. I mean, one of the other things that comes to mind is he pardoned Lil Wayne and Kodak Black. But there's not many musicians who allowed him to use their music. He has multiple pending lawsuits for copyright infringement. I mean, it's that may seem petty to some, but it is just, it's remarkable to me that he just does not have support.
No.
Like, I'm amazed. And we talk about all these people that turned out for this insurrection and these marches and these protests across the country. The thing that's amazing to me is that they're nowhere to be seen. Now, large swaths of Washington, D.C. are on lockdown.
Right.
Like, you cannot as a citizen go to the inauguration or get anywhere near it. I totally get that.
Whoa, I don't know if this is breaking news or not. This just popped up. Phillip Rivers is retiring.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah.
Well, this was a big question that we had talked about. Would he go back to the Colts? He has got, and I say this in all seriousness, Phillip Rivers has a huge family.
Yeah.
He has, I think he has 7 or 9 children. Mm-hmm. His wife has been kind of asking him to retire.
Yeah.
And, I mean, he's had a good career, not a great career.
Yeah.
He never won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
He's in the Hall of Very Good.
Yes, he is.
So, interesting. Yeah, some breaking news there. Phillip Rivers has retired from the NFL.
Yep.
I don't know. I back to Donald Trump here. And if you're just tuning in, we appreciate you watching the show. Please make sure you find the subscribe button and smash that thing for us here on YouTube Live. Just search The Monty Show, MONTY, The Monty Show. If you are listening or watching on a different platform, we would appreciate that. One of the words that's thrown around, I think, pretty lightly, and people don't take it seriously, is disgraced.
Uh-huh.
Is Donald Trump truly a disgraced president?
I mean, I guess it depends who you're asking. In my opinion, yeah. I mean, I think from a public perspective, like the masses in America, yeah, I think I look at things, to disgrace somebody is a very passionate decision, right? So, like, when you talk about the emotion behind disgracing somebody, like, hey, you're a freaking disgrace, right? To get to that point, something extremely negative would have had to happen to get you there. And that extremely negative thing to me is the pandemic and the handling of the pandemic. It's not even that there is a pandemic going on in this country. It's not the physical virus being transferred from human to human. It is how he handled it. It is, and really the better way to say it is his lack of ability in handling it and allowing almost 400,000 people now to die from this thing after you said with the first 5 cases that it'd be gone in a week. He's allowed the country to get in a very vulnerable space. And that is why I think the American public is very frustrated. Because the thing here is, like, everybody says, oh, well, he's got all these supporters and they're raiding the Capitol building and people are outraged. That percentage of people is a grain of sand compared to how many people want him out of the office. Yeah. And that's what happened in the election.
But and I think to that point, and I'm not saying you're wrong, he got 74 million votes.
Sure,
that's a fucking lot of people who voted for him. And he lost.
Yeah, and if you look at the vote totals this time around, both candidates, Trump and Biden, got more votes than the prior election. So, I mean, more people this time turned out to vote, both for Trump and obviously more for Biden. And I think that in and of itself may be one of the greatest accomplishments this country's ever seen, because voter turnout has historically been a real struggle. People actually believing their vote counts. And then this time, and this is why I say, to answer the disgrace question, this is why I feel like he will be regarded by a lot of people as a disgraced president, because we had such a heavy voter turnout.
Well, again, I mean, Joe Biden got 82 million votes.
Yeah.
Donald Trump got,
I think it was
74.2.
Like 74, yeah.
74.2 million. I mean, it's pretty remarkable. I think as Donald Trump leaves the White House, I think Joe Biden is doing things the way he wants to be doing them. It is not an accident that Joe Biden did not show his face publicly this morning until Donald Trump got on to Air Force One. Or whatever they're going to call it. It'll be Air Force One until noon Eastern.
Yes.
Until noon Eastern.
Because he's still president until Biden's inaugurated.
But the thing that's interesting to me is Donald Trump would not wait to leave Washington because he wanted his last flight to be on Air Force One.
Yes.
He never wanted to fly on that plane and not be president of the United States.
Yes.
Is that petty? I don't know.
No, I get it.
I think it's interesting.
I get it. Yeah,
I mean,
I get it.
I think no matter what you think of Joe Biden's policy, I think he has handled this post-election situation quite well.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that Joe Biden has today not shown his face until Donald Trump officially stepped onto that airplane it is remarkable. And you see that, now Mitch McConnell, Chuck Schumer, and Nancy Pelosi, the leadership in this country, are going to a prayer service with Joe Biden.
Yeah.
They're going together with him.
Yeah.
And if you look at Mitch McConnell's a very interesting figure now.
Fascinating.
Because his wife, Secretary Cho, left the administration, after the insurrection 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And immediately Mitch McConnell turned on Donald Trump. Immediately. Once Mitch McConnell's wife, I think she was transportation secretary. Once she resigned, Mitch McConnell turned on Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting is that tells you there was leverage there. And maybe Donald Trump was using that leverage against McConnell. I don't know.
Oh, I definitely think it's safe to say he was.
But now that leverage is gone. And what I think is so fascinating is so is Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell openly talked about yesterday how Donald Trump was responsible for the insurrection 2 weeks ago. And what I thought was interesting was that Mitch McConnell essentially has said he's going to vote to impeach Donald Trump. Yeah. When that happens, I don't know. I'm not even sure that we need that. I'm not sure that that's the right thing to do.
I do think it will happen.
I think it'll happen too, and I think Mitch McConnell's on board with it. And I think when you look at the real the far wings of the Republican Party, I'm not even going to say her name. This idiot congresswoman that's going to file impeachment charges against Joe Biden today, who's banned from Twitter right now.
So dumb.
Like this is you want to talk about how you heal a country? You don't file knowingly false impeachment charges against Joe Biden on the first day of his presidency and then say, well, we need this to heal the country. How is that going to heal the country? And that's my biggest question with the impeachment of Donald Trump. How is a Senate trial going to heal the country? I don't know that. I don't know how that's going to happen.
But I also think you have to weigh that question because I think that's a very relevant question. You got to weigh that question with, hey, do we just not hold Donald Trump accountable? Do we not, for one of the most violent, days in our history?
I think you hold him accountable. I don't think it's through impeaching a president who's no longer president.
Well,
I didn't
even know that was possible, first of all.
Oh, it absolutely is. And the reason they're doing it, for those of you who don't know this, the reason that they're doing it is so he can never run for office again.
Yeah.
I mean, it is.
And there's credence in that, for sure.
If you are found guilty in the Senate trial, you can never hold federal office again.
Yeah.
And Donald Trump's, here's the other thing. And I don't know how to weigh this. And this is what I struggle with Donald Trump.
Right.
I believe he's done real significant damage to this country. I think the international shit, look, we're going to kiss and make up and cuddle with Europe.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
And Mexico, maybe Mexico to a lesser extent, but if you look at the immigration policies that Joe Biden's going to enact today, we're going to kiss and make up with Mexico.
Yeah.
Right? I think we're going to be fine with the Canadians, the Europeans. I don't know about Xi in China. I don't think there's any kissing and making up with guys like Kim Jong-un in North Korea. And frankly, I say, why would we even want to?
Yeah.
So I think our foreign policy is going to be fine.
Right.
I'm not worried about foreign policy. I'm worried about insurrection from within.
Right.
It sucks that we had to vet every National Guard member because they were worried about a National Guardsman assassinating Joe Biden while he was being inaugurated.
Yeah.
That's where we've come to. It sucks that no American citizen that's not completely vetted and part of the process will be at the inauguration today.
Yeah.
That sucks. Why are we there? Because of Donald Trump's rhetoric. There's no way to there's no way to get around that. Multiple times in multiple situations, whether it was Charlottesville before the insurrection happened, while they were planning the insurrection, there is evidence that they used his words. QAnon, this ridiculous group, talking about how all of their members need to be pardoned. Talking about how Donald Trump was sending them Morse code through hand signals. This is who we're dealing with.
Yes.
But does Donald Trump ever come out and say that QAnon is a false, ridiculous group? No, he never said that.
Nope.
Did he ever come out and say, hey, QAnon, guess what? There is no child molestation happening in the Democratic Party? Did he ever say that? Because for those of you who don't know, the Democratic Party and the deep state, all they do is molest children, according to QAnon. They molest children, and then when they're done molesting the children, they work to undermine Donald Trump's presidency.
That seems accurate.
That's what QAnon believes.
Yeah.
That's who led this insurrection. And Donald Trump's words supported them. He's done incredible damage to this country, but let me ask you this. Do you move on and heal by punishment? As Rudy Giuliani said, do we need a trial by combat? Is that the right thing? Because that's what a Senate impeachment trial is going to be.
Yeah, but here's the thing: you can't just not do anything. That's not an option. I mean, you cannot allow, Donald Trump to just skate on this whole insurrection thing. It's just not an option.
But then at that point, don't you go for guys like Hawley and Cruz? Don't you go after Ted Cruz? Don't you go after Hawley, because those are the guys that supported the insurrectionists?
Yeah, I mean, maybe you do, but the thing is Trump is the poster child, so he's number one. These other guys that are in Congress, I agree, totally supported it, totally have responsibility in it, totally should be held accountable as well. But I just think from a media standpoint, from a just from an overall big picture perspective, when someone says, "Hey, who got held accountable for the insurrection?" Hey, we're impeaching Donald Trump. I mean, that's why I think they feel so strongly. Now, I agree with you. There's real conversation and real credence in the idea of, hey, let's just put Donald Trump in the past, let it go. Let the country take the step forward it really needs to take forward. Give Joe Biden the fairest and best start that he could possibly have with all things considered, because frankly, there are a bunch of folks in Congress and Donald Trump who worked against Biden this whole time to make his life difficult. So I don't know, man. I think it's a real slippery slope, but I do think there is a responsibility there to hold somebody accountable.
Yeah, and I don't know how you do that. I just, I really, I don't know. I mean, I have to think that Donald Trump is going to have a very difficult time staying out of prison. Yeah. I think when you look at... and
I don't feel like anyone's talking about that, by the way, in the media.
I think a lot of people are talking... The state of New York is coming for Donald Trump. I think, and if you don't know this, he's got hundreds of millions of dollars in debt that's outstanding that has to either be paid or restructured by the end of this year. All of his bankers have walked away from him, like Deutsche Bank, who has been the only mainstream significant lender that would finance him, has said that they are no longer his personal banker. They have unofficially requested he withdraw his funds from their bank. Mm-hmm. And he owes them hundreds of millions of dollars. He is going to have a difficult time getting credit from anybody. And when he does get credit from somebody, his credit score is awful. I think a lot of people don't realize that about Donald Trump. His credit scores are terrible.
Are they saying that he's in the 500s?
Well, nobody really knows what his actual score is, but if you do the math on his personal finances, there's a thought that Donald Trump has hundreds of millions of dollars in liquidity. He does not. He has millions of dollars in liquidity, but he has massive debt.
Yeah.
And these IRS audits, he's got about $200 million in back taxes and penalties he owes to the IRS. Those didn't disappear because he was president. They were frozen. The IRS held their position on those audits, but now he is not president coming up here in I guess what it'll be 3 hours from now.
Yeah.
He will no longer be president.
Yep.
And the IRS is going to unleash, and I believe that Joe Biden and his administration are going to unleash the full force of the IRS on Donald Trump.
I would guess so.
And they are going to leverage him. They are going to begin seizing his properties. The state of New York has several massive litigations working against Donald Trump. One of them is fraud for the way that he has elevated and inflated the value of his properties, including his golf clubs. Doral, his famed club in Florida, Doral is completely leveraged. There's talk that Bedminster is going to go out of business now because they lost the U.S. Open.
Yeah.
He is in real financial ruin. He is in big trouble here. It is going to take a miracle for the Trump companies to pull out of this. And I think one of the things that he never thought was, well, I'm going to have an insurrection that's going to be laid at my feet and blamed on me 2 weeks before I step out of the White House. And all of the banks have walked away from me. All of my personal bankers have walked away from me. Everybody has blamed him and walked away from him.
Yeah.
He's in real trouble here.
Well, and the biggest thing to your point is he's alone. I think that is a really challenging place to be. Of course, you're always going to have your family and those folks that are obviously in his inner circle. But I think overall, to do business in this world, you got to have human beings that will do business with you. And if you don't have that, you're not doing anything. And I think I don't know how he gets out of all this stuff in New York and like all these things that are leveraged against him. I don't know how you avoid prison time and money and all that.
Listen, you're not going to escape that because Joe Biden is not going to pardon him.
Is Donald Trump not one of the best escape artists of all time?
Yeah, but you're on a different level now.
Yeah, you are part of the federal government.
The reason that so many of these charges are at the state level is because Joe Biden cannot pardon him for state crimes. You can only be pardoned for federal crimes. And I don't think there's an appetite to pardon Donald Trump.
No.
Even if they are federal charges, I just don't see that there's a willingness or a desire in the Democratic Party or the Republican Party for that matter. Because, Mrs. Monty and I were talking about this last night. Republican Party is in a state of
chaos,
tomfuckery.
Yes.
I don't know how you unwind the watch that Donald Trump wore during his presidency. There's breaking news this morning from the AP and CNN. Donald Trump did not ever call Joe Biden. He wrote him a letter and left it on the desk in the Oval Office.
So he didn't write him a note either.
He did. He
did. Well, but not the same way that he should have.
He did leave a letter for Joe. Well, shoulda, coulda, woulda. He should have called Joe Biden. He should be at his inauguration.
Yeah.
Every president leaves a letter in the desk drawer for the incoming president.
Right.
Donald Trump apparently, he probably threw it on the floor and took a leak on it, but he wrote him a letter and left it in the Oval for him.
It's probably like a 3-word letter.
So, look, whether he gets impeached or not, and he's impeached already, but whether he's found guilty in the Senate or not, I think is trivial.
Yeah.
I think Donald Trump has done so much damage to the Republican Party. And the really telling thing is, and it will be the midterms coming up in what would that be? I guess in 2023?
I believe so. I'd have to check.
In 2 years from now.
Yeah.
The midterm elections, which will be 2022, because the elections are in 2022.
Yeah.
Those elections typically go to the opposite party that's in the White House. So you've seen the midterms 2 years ago went heavily for the Democrats. Now the question is with Joe Biden, and he is not running into the White House. He is sprinting into the White House.
Yeah.
He has a dozen executive orders that will undo everything from, crimes against the environment to immigration. DACA, he is taking the billions of dollars that were redirected to build the wall and putting them back into the military. He is unwinding a significant number of Trump policies on day one.
Yeah.
But there is no doubt that the Republican Party, and my wife sends me a text this morning that says, can we please stop calling it the grand old party? I don't think the Republican Party is in any way, shape, or form anything that it ever has been.
No.
Not the party that I grew up supporting.
It's not the same Republican Party. It is a dumpster fire and a mere shadow of what it used to be.
It's not even the Republican Party of George W. Bush.
No.
It is not the Republican Party of Ronald Reagan. We can stop. Like, one of the things that really pisses me off is people comparing Donald Trump to Ronald Reagan.
It's not close.
Donald Trump's Republican Party, I think, is dead in the water. All this talk about Donald Trump, he's going to run for president, he's going to rerun in 2024. Well, fuck that, because I don't think there's any chance that he can get elected. Excuse my French.
No.
I don't think there's any chance he can get elected, and I don't think there is anybody, maybe outside of Lindsey Graham, who apparently, just cannot get his nose out of Donald Trump's rectum.
He'll flip eventually.
But
he will.
I don't know that there's any Republican senator that is more staunchly supporting of Donald Trump than Lindsey Graham. Now that he's lost Cocaine Mitch, I don't know what he does.
Yeah.
Because Mitch McConnell is going to vote to impeach Donald Trump fully.
Yeah.
And I think this is a remarkable moment in time. Where do the Republicans go from here? That certainly is part of Donald Trump's legacy. If they lose the midterms and the Democrats regain seats in the House and more seats in the Senate, if in 4 years Kamala Harris gets elected president, because that certainly is where the Democratic Party is going, I'm not voting for a 107-year-old Joe Biden.
No.
In 4 years. Joe Biden, if we're truth-telling, Joe Biden's the guy that we needed now.
Yeah.
But at some point, and if you're a supporter of this Democratic Party, at some point you need youth and energy in a candidate.
Yeah.
And my guess is the one guy that the Democrats fear the most is Paul Ryan, the former Speaker of the House.
Uh-huh.
I think Paul Ryan is going to be a real force in whatever incarnation the Republican Party shows up with here now that Joe Biden's president.
Yeah.
But there is a clear signal from Mitch McConnell, the minority leader of the Senate, that he is going to work with Joe Biden and the Democrats to straighten some of this out. Mm-hmm. Because I think there is an appetite in Washington to get back to doing the business of this country instead of the business of the president.
Agreed.
So I think it will be really interesting. Real quick, we'll keep you up to date, obviously, on the headlines. The inauguration is getting close to kicking off now. Obviously, Joe Biden, again, if you're just tuning in, Joe Biden's in church this morning with Mitch McConnell and Speaker Pelosi and Majority Leader Schumer in the Senate. They are in church together, which is unbelievable. So it's going to be a historic day. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about entrepreneurship in 2021 because a lot of people have been paying attention to the things we say, which I'm not sure why you're doing that. It indicates to me that you don't have a life. But my point is...
Okay, yeah.
I'm kidding. I'm just joking. My point is we've talked a lot about the hows and the whys that we've moved back to Utah for. Certainly the lifestyle, the environment, the quality of life, I think, speaks volumes about why we left Arizona to come back to Utah. I think I have not missed Arizona a single second since we drove out of that state.
Yeah.
I have not missed it for a second. We had a great, whatever it was, 7 years there, I guess. Is that right? Or
no, it was like 4 or 5 years.
5 years?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. We moved there October 1st of 2015.
Yeah, it's like 5 years.
Wow, we almost left 5 years to the day.
Oh.
That's crazy. 5 years, 2 months, whatever it was. We enjoyed our time there. We made pretty good money in real estate, lost pretty good money in real estate. But a lot of people have asked, what are you guys doing? One of the reasons we moved back here is because the business climate here is very aggressive. And there is a lot of opportunity, frankly, to do business.
Right.
Now, I'm not in a position where I'm going to tell you exactly what I'm doing because I'm not ready to do that yet. What we are doing.
Right.
Because I'm not ready to do that. But the conversation I want to have today to finish this show is about the attitude and the mindset that it takes to get into business for yourself at this time in our lives. I mean, 2021 is going to be one of the most critical years in the history of this country. And I think the very fact that Joe Biden's first move was to extend eviction moratoriums and hold on the student loan debt, forbearance of student loans right now, you don't have to pay your federal student loans, tells you that he is going to be very aggressive in creating an atmosphere where business can get done.
Right.
And a climate where business can get done.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at several things, like SBA loans are widely available right now. And now, having said that, lenders don't have, again, an appetite to lend to startups. People like Chase Bank, Bank of America will not even take an application from a pure startup.
Right.
But if you look at what the SBA is doing, they're offering up to 6 months of loan payments on your behalf. They will make the SBA, the Small Business Association of the United States government, will not only guarantee your loan, but they'll make your first 6 payments, depending on what kind of business you are and where you are and what you qualify for. So, having said that, you can open a business today if you want to.
Right.
If you have credit, if you have a good credit score, if you are, financially stable, and if you have, things like a business plan, a vision, experience, there's all these factors that go into how you get an SBA loan, a small business loan.
Right.
One of them is your resume. By the way, a lot of people don't know this. You have to have experience in the industry you're going into, because lenders don't want to lend to somebody that's going to open a Chinese noodle shop who's never even worked in a restaurant before.
Right.
They're not going to do it. So you have to have experience in what you're doing. You have to have good credit. You have to have some liquidity about you. You have to be able, it requires a minimum of 10% down. Based on your credit, it could be more. But it will be at least 10% down. So if you're asking for $1 million, you got to put $100,000 down.
Right.
But the main thing that it requires to succeed in getting a loan is enthusiasm and belief. And I think one of the things that's missing right now is enthusiasm and mindset. And I think that mindset is really important. I can tell you that Mrs. Monty and I are working hard to open a business right now. And one of the things that we've done is we've had very difficult conversations. And it is about what you want to do, and are you passionate about this, and hey, what's it going to take? But the one thing that you can never do is waver in your belief that that business will work and that you will work in that business. If you have any hesitation in that at all, I think you need to take a step back and say, what am I doing? And if you don't do that, and if frankly, if you don't have that hesitation at some point in your process, I think you're probably overconfident.
Right.
Because I think it's perfectly rational and normal to say, holy cow, we're going to be, what will it be for the average new business owner? Hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt?
Yeah, something like that.
Right? Now, it's different debt. It's not credit card debt. It's, hey, you took a loan to open a business that's going to generate revenue to pay that money back.
Yeah.
And then some, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you have debt
it's
service.
Totally different.
You have debt service.
Yeah.
Everybody has debt service.
Right.
The point is, I think so many people are terrified by that, and so many people have a fear that controls their mind and controls, because when you lose control of your mind, your actions tend to follow that path.
Right.
You're not going to act because you don't have clarity in your thought.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm 47, you're 13. The thing that fascinates me is you're 20 years younger than me.
Yeah.
You're 27, I'm 47. You have no fear of any of this.
No, I don't, because I think it's to me, your your best point there was the different kinds of debt and how you use debt. Debt should not be feared. It should be understood and used, because frankly, it's a tool. Without acquiring debt, you can't start a business unless you have, $1 million sitting in the bank, as an example. But so few people have that. Most people would have to take on a significant amount of debt to start their business. And so, to me, being scared of that debt does you no good. Okay, cool. You're scared to have debt. All right, well, just stay in your 9 to 5, get your paycheck, and and that's cool. That's fine. I respect that. That's fine. But what I'm saying is, hey, if you really do, if you're saying that you want to be free in a sense of like, hey, I want to be able to live my days, later, like 10 years from now, I want to be able to live my days however I want to live my days. I don't want to have to clock in and clock out and fill out my time card and stuff. I want to be able to, go and snowboard on a Tuesday and then go and do this on a Wednesday or whatever. Like, to get to that point in life, a 9 to 5 is not getting you there.
No.
That's not possible. And so for me, I just don't think there's any use in being scared of it. Yes, healthy respect, absolutely. Hey, if I bring on a ton of debt into my life and then I absolutely flame the business and do an awful job and just don't execute, yeah, you're going to be in an awful position. But that's not what you're going to do. That's not going to happen. So that's why I say, like, it's there's no use in being scared. You just have to understand, hey, this is the process. This is why, you write business plans and you project and you understand what's what and you do all these calculations and numbers and all this stuff to understand, okay, I'm taking on $1 million of debt. My business is capable of producing this much income based on what other businesses have done. Thus, it should take me this long to pay off the debt. Like, it's just a process.
Yeah, and I think some of it, though, goes to the process a lot of times brings you to a reality. Mm-hmm. And I think the process for me, there's absolutely fear in my mind about this process and about, hey, what if we actually do have significant loan and debt service on our business? Mm-hmm. But I'm not scared of the actual process of, making money, executing our business to pay that debt off. Mm-hmm. What scares me is not doing that. Mm-hmm. And what scares me is not opening a business. What scares me is a tax code that is fortified now by Donald Trump that punishes you for collecting a paycheck every day. Mm-hmm. That punishes you for being a W-2 employee. Because that's the reality, and I don't think a lot of people know this.
They don't.
Or understand this. The tax code is not set up for you to be a W-2 employee. It is set up for you, and the economy thrives when you have the balls to go and open a business, and you pay yourself, and you pay other employees. That's where you thrive. The goal is not to collect a paycheck every 2 weeks.
Right.
The goal is to make and pay a check to an employee every 2 weeks.
Because the government wants money to have more ways to move through the economy.
Correct. And so you get significant, when you're in business for yourself, when you are an LLC, the tax breaks are unbelievable.
Yeah.
From interest to equipment to real estate to, to depreciation. I mean, being in business for yourself is absolutely a weapon against poverty.
Yeah.
But you also, I think, have to have some courage, and you have to have the ability to see that.
I would agree. Yeah.
And how do you, at your age, how do you get over that? Because I think this is a good friend of mine is thinking about opening a business as well.
Uh-huh.
Now, they are much younger than us. They're in their mid-20s. Mm-hmm. And there is a lot of pause, take a step back, take another step back, take a half step forward.
Yeah.
Which means you're never going to get there.
Right.
So how do you? You're 27. Mm-hmm. How do you get over the idea that if you're going to be $250,000 in debt?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like it's just like anything else in life. I mean, yeah, we can obsess on the debt and the numbers and like, oh my God, like my life is going to be derailed for 16 to 18 months paying off this debt. Well, cool, but what is the other side of that? The other side of it is, hey, in that 16, 18 months to pay that debt, you're also working your ass off for yourself and not the man. You're also working your ass off to put yourself in a position where you can start making money. Because the truth is, this initial carrying of this debt, that's just the bridge to get to where you want to be. That's just what you have to do to get to the position you want to be. So the reason I'm more comfortable with it, I guess, is because I have worked in a restaurant. I've been on that grind. I'm not talking about from an experience perspective. I'm talking about, hey, like, yes, the position at Yelp is very cushy. I don't have to leave the house. I make good money. It's working 9 to 6 Monday through Friday. It can be a grind mentally, but it's a good job. It's a well-paying job. Great benefits, everything. But the real question that you have to ask yourself in this situation is, do you want to do that the rest of your life, or do you want to move through life going from the job at Yelp to another 9 to 5 or to another, whatever that next thing is to get your check? Or do you want to take a leap of faith that's not really a leap of faith and start your own business and get to a point where you can be free? Like I think everyone deserves the opportunity to be in a financial position where they're not like leveraged to death and they don't have to think about if they're going to be able to pay their rent.
Where you have freedom,
Yeah, I think everyone deserves that opportunity.
I think everyone deserves the chance to earn peace of mind.
Yeah.
And that's something that is scary to a lot of people. Now, I also will say, I don't know if I would do this if it was just me on my own. Mm-hmm. I think I would probably I would need a lot more runway.
Right.
If I were, because my wife's kind of a warrior. Like she, we don't tend to be insecure about the same things at the same time ever. Mm-hmm. So when she's having kind of a tussle in her mind, or if I'm questioning something or other, we usually will either have a huge fight about it and work it out, or we'll just talk through it and kind of balance each other.
Right.
Now, thankfully, we don't have those huge fights very often.
Uh-huh.
But I'll tell you, we've had one real good one about opening our business, and I think it was really beneficial. And I say that, and I only air my dirty laundry to say that I think you need to have a really strong partner who is more of an advocate than a partner. Like we are vested equally in our business that we're opening.
Right.
Essentially all three of us are.
Right.
But it's one of those things where you have to have a foundation.
Yeah.
Because I think if you're going to go into business alone, I would tell you, have the guts to go into business alone, but also have the guts to celebrate your business victories alone.
Yeah. I think I don't think I'd ever go into business with. It would be tough for me to go into business with just like casual friends or something. That's just not something I would probably do. And I think people just struggle with the idea of like, okay, well, this just seems like such a daunting task, and it's just like anything else. Whether we're talking about losing weight or moving into a different state on a 5-day notice or whatever, like you just have to take the first step and go and do it. And the benefits are extreme. I mean, they are far and wide.
Yeah.
And that's why I say, like, I want to live in a nice house. I want to have 3-4 cars. You're not going to do that on a 9 to 5. That's not happening. It's just not happening. You can't do it on a 9 to 5 unless you're making $400,000 or $500,000 a year as a doctor or something like that.
Well, it's not even that you can't do it on a 9 to 5. I think you can't do it unless you only have one 9 to 5. Unless you are like the life we lived the last 2 years before pre-pandemic. Mm-hmm. We had 3-4 gigs.
Yeah.
Even in the last year when we were at Yelp, we were still doing a podcast every day. We had multiple sponsors we had to take care of. We were doing Cars and Coffee. We were doing videography. We were doing social media consulting.
Yeah.
Like we're doing all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And we're not living life at all.
Right.
And you get to a point where you realize that's not how you want to live.
Right.
And the only reason I want to work for myself is because I want my wife to thrive. Mm. My wife is a grinder. Like her job it's a fucking grind. There's no other way to look at it.
Yeah.
We talked about this yesterday. My wife got a significant job change yesterday.
Right.
And she worked really hard for that. But we were talking about Yelp. And the thing that's amazing about Yelp is I don't have work-life balance issues.
Right.
I work from 9 to 6, not 6:01, not 8:59. I work from 9 to 6.
Yeah.
And I'm done. I don't work weekends. I don't work nights. I don't answer my phone.
Right.
Because I don't get phone calls after hours. I don't have emails after hours unless I want to.
Yeah.
I'm legit off all night Friday, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. My wife does not know what that means. She does not know what that is.
Yep.
Whether it is pipeline, whether it is, business reporting, analytics, fires. Like, my wife is always working, and if she's not working, she's working in her mind.
Yep.
Enough of that bullshit. Like, that's over.
Yeah.
Like, that's the kind of thing in my mind that you cannot do because that sucks the thrive out of your life.
Yeah, and I think it takes years off your life. I think it is not it's not the space you want to be in. And I think like I say, I think everyone deserves the opportunity. You know, and maybe you said it a little better. Maybe not everybody deserves the opportunity to be free, but everyone certainly deserves the opportunity to take that first step. In
Everybody
an effort to get there.
deserves the opportunity to thrive.
Yeah.
Now, what you do with that opportunity, that's up to you.
Yeah.
You know what? I refuse. I don't mean to belabor this because we only got like 3 minutes left here, but I refuse to live my life leveraged. Like, we're really fortunate. A little look, a small look, like, I have no debt right now. I am completely debt free because how did we get there? My wife convinced me to buy a much larger, more expensive home 3 years ago. And I mean, I straight up told her I'm not doing it. We're not doing it. And we just worked kind of through the process. At one point, we had put a deposit down. We actually tore up that deposit check. And then, you know what? We did it. And it was that reach, and that reach really paid off. Like, we did really well on both of our homes in Arizona. We did really, really well. So we're debt-free now, which is obviously gives you much more, opportunity. I'm 47. I've worked my entire life to have an 800 credit score. It took me 47 years to figure out how to get to an 800 credit score. 47 years. What does that tell you? I took a lot of risk and I failed a lot.
Right.
And I'm not ashamed to say that.
Yeah.
But I'm also not too prideful, or I'm not too ashamed of my failure. Then I'm not going to talk about the fact that, yes, I've worked and we've worked really hard, and we now have 800 credit scores. That's crazy.
Right.
It took me 47 years to get there.
Right.
And I am not ashamed to say that. It's not being boastful, but I'm telling you, if you will dream a little bit, and this is where I want to leave this conversation. So few people that are I would say so few people that are under the age of 30.
Yeah.
Have a dream or a vision for what they want their life to look like.
Yeah. And I didn't have that for a while. I didn't know what that was for a while.
I work with so many millennials right now. In the last 3 weeks, I've probably coached. Dude, I've spent so much time coaching other people.
Yeah.
And I love to ask that question. Well, like, what do you want to? I always joke with people, whether you're 59 or 29. What do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah.
Like, I ask that question probably 10 times a day. And I cannot tell you how many people are like, I have no idea. So are you just going to work at Yelp? Or like I was talking to this guy yesterday that I used to work with, who now's a financial advisor.
Right.
But he wants to get into sports media. And I said to him, well, what's your dream job? And he's like, I don't really have a dream job.
Right.
And I said to him, how do you not have a dream job? And he said, well, what's your dream job? And I said, afternoon drive at the Score in Chicago or WFAN in New York. That's it. That's my dream job. Oh, by the way, my other dream job is to have my own business and have, multiple business lines. Like, I just opened, like, we just got one of the cool things we did is we just got our LLC done.
Yeah.
And so now we have this great LLC, and my wife and I yesterday talked about what our next brand is going to be, because we have one that we're working on now, but we have what our number 2 brand's going to be. Mm-hmm. Like, that's my dream, is to design, concept, and execute business models.
Right.
That's my dream job now.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited about it. So many people that I talked to under the age of 30 didn't want to be a policeman. All I wanted to be when I was a kid was a fireman, a policeman, or a talk radio host.
Right.
I didn't want to flip houses when I was a kid.
Well, what kid does?
I didn't know what being an entrepreneur was when I was a kid.
The difference is, though, that, like, you got to remember, like, 20-somethings are typically loaded up with debt. They're in a very negative headspace because of that.
No, don't start the college conversation.
Well, but it's
true, we're out of time,
dude. It's true. Like,
we're out of time.
I'm not trying to say like that's like when I think about the difference between me and people my age. Like, that's one of the main differences. Like, I didn't accrue all that debt. I didn't
Yeah.
you know, and the price I paid for that was working my ass off for 5 years to figure out what I was going to do, and I didn't make a lot of money and all that. But now I'm coming out the other side, way ahead of the curve.
Well, I missed a bunch of comments on Periscope. I apologize for that. Catherine on Periscope says, first time I've ever seen your show. Well, I can't read that, but she said, I'm trying to open a lash salon in Kissimmee, Florida. And all of my friends and family tell me I'm stupid for doing that. And it's like, well, okay, then you're not around the right people.
Well,
If you're talking about opening, if your dream is to open a lash salon and all you're hearing is, wow, that's really dumb. Hey, you're stupid. Hey, you shouldn't do that. You might want to find somebody else to talk to about it.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's the first thing. The second thing I would say is you're never going to be able to just replace your family. Obviously, it's your family, right? So I think you have to have.
Oh, this is a big one.
You have to have a certain, again, there's no better way to really say it, but you got to have a not give a fuck kind of gene. Like, you got to be able to say, hey, this is what I want to do. This is why I want to do it, and it's unfortunate you don't support me, but I'm going to do it.
But what you have to do is you have to surround you surround yourself with people who A, have done what you're trying to do, B, who have the at least the ability to see past their own beliefs,
Right.
and then I think you have to go surround yourself with people that are positive and have a lot of energy about what you're trying to do, whether they own a lash salon or not. Right? You have to go and surround yourself with those people. It's really unfortunate, and this is going to sound incredibly negative and bad, but take it at face value. Your family is not always your advocates. They're not always, the best part of your life. They're not always people, like I can tell you my family has no vision past the 9 to 5, and they're going to retire on their 401k. Like, that's what my family believes is the right way to go about life. Well, hey, knock yourself out. Good luck to you. That's not how I'm going to go about it. Yeah. Now, that's your dream and your vision. Okay, cool. Good luck with that. I have a completely different dream and vision, right? Sometimes you just need to stop banging your head against the same door when what's on the other side of the door is not supportive and positive and mentoring for you.
Yeah, and I think you can't look for you can't look for acceptance in other people, like whether it's your family or friends.
But you don't need acceptance.
But a lot of people feel like you do need acceptance,
right? And I think that's a huge mistake. I don't think you need the acceptance of your mom when your mom's never going to give you that acceptance, or your sister, or even your best friend.
Right.
What you need is to just take one step forward and see that that's a possibility.
Yeah.
That's what I would say that you need. And so many people are just unwilling to do that.
Yeah.
If you have questions about this, either leave a comment on our YouTube channel, The Monty Show, MONTY, The Monty Show. You can always hit me up on Twitter, Instagram, The Monty Show, MONTY, The Monty Show. Nobody likes you, but you can find Jake on Twitter and Instagram, SLC Salt Lake City, SLC Supercars on Twitter and Instagram. Anything seriously wrong today?
Nah.
I hope not. I hope everything goes. In Washington, I'm not that worried about it. There's so much infrastructure in place to prevent that. I'm worried about the other state capitals. We'll have all that for you tomorrow. We'll be back on Phillip Rivers' retirement tomorrow. Is he the Hall of Very Good? And by the way, tomorrow on the show, we'll talk about generational quarterbacks because a lot of them are slipping away from us.
Yep.
So that's tomorrow. Until tomorrow, say welcome home, Joe.
Welcome home, Joe.